Welcome back to the Cool Time Dice Hour. We are now talking the post-game.
Post-game, because we are sportsy.
Our first official episode.
It's the play-by-play.
That's right. So everyone, they have listened to Murder Mavens' Halloween Hijinks, which is our first episode. So this was, and I got to play in it too. I got to introduce the world to Molly.
Yeah.
And not do a whole lot because I found I was up there with these seasoned improvisers. I was
the
like,
loud people.
Oh wow, they were really good. I found myself multiple times going, man, that was really funny. He was really good. That was really good. And then go, you could play too. Yeah. Like you could also do those things. I would end up going, you're not in the audience right now. Like you're on the stage with the other people. You can say more things. As I went back and edited it, I was sort of going, yeah, this would be a point where you could have talked. Like no one's doing that. You got to get in there. You could have talked to one of the other Ravens and been, and maybe engaged in some conversation. But I was intimidated.
Oh.
And also rusty. Like I had not done any role playing in a really long time.
Well, and it was our first time
doing this,
trying it.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the lessons that I learned to go forward to the next time was to be a little bit more organized in the way that I frame it. So I tried to make trying to make the next episodes even more like the structure of a TV show.
Okay. Yeah.
So that there's like almost little act breaks to make sure that we're getting each combination of Maven possible and to sort of put people into pairings so that everybody gets their chance to shine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a really good way. That's a really good and difficult from a game master perspective, because you have to then keep track of like, oh, Dorian had a really funny bit here. Like I need to move him to the side because we haven't heard from David or whatever. You have to, balance all that stuff. So it's like another thing you have to keep track of.
Yes,
in your head.
It's true.
Another game. So this was an existing game that you had that you played at home essentially, and now we've sort of moved it into this space. When did your Murder Mavens game start?
I got it as a gift, the game structure of the Brindlewood Bay Murder Mavens, and played for I think maybe 5 or 6 sessions with a group of gals.
The same group?
No, different group.
Okay.
And then sort of got used to the game, got used to the mechanics of it, and really fell in love with it. So wanted to bring it into this arena because I really respond to the fact that it's like a cross between Murder, She Wrote and the Golden Girls, which are favorites of mine. I love that the idea is that it's older men and women who are mystery solvers.
Right. So there's not romance. You're not. You're
there's maybe a little romance.
Sure, but it's not like a Magnum PI episode.
No.
There's a new romantic lead every time.
We'll try and get some Magnum PI pieces into that puzzle.
Okay.
And I like the idea of structuring it like a TV show. So we have commercial breaks.
That is super fun.
And cold opens and introduction, throw forwards, and theme songs.
They got to hear you singing.
Yes, I wouldn't call it singing, but I've been trying to do a riff on a different popular, well-known TV theme song for each of the episodes of the Murder Mavens.
I like that. Was very fun. And also, the commercials are super fun, but also I like when I did the second one, the first one, it was going on and it was happening, and I was thinking like once again, you should get involved. You could say something. You could participate in this. And I was just like, I want to. The second one came along. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to make a big choice. And I did. And then I said, I'm Benedict Cumberbatch. And then Dorian came in as, I can't remember who, he made up somebody. And then I was like, oh no, I don't know where to go. I basically put myself out on the limb and then went, oh, I don't have anything to support this.
Well, that's when you bring in your yes and skills. You just say yes and add one thing.
This is where my lack of improv training comes in. Yeah, so but it was, and listening back, you can't hear the flop sweat that was happening at that moment.
Thankfully, that doesn't get picked up by the mics. Yeah.
But yeah, I like that structure, and I like it because it keeps us moving and it keeps us thinking, and then it also gives like us a little mental break.
And you can cut between scenes, so you can like jump forward in time, or sometimes jump backwards in time. The act breaks and the commercial breaks allow you that sort of like narrative tomfoolery. Or what's the word I'm looking for?
No,
like,
I think that's good.
You can like muck around with it in a different way.
Yeah. Did you give any thought to like setting it in the 80s? I mean, like all those shows are 80s, 90s, that kind of thing. Had you given any thought to that as opposed to now?
Well, the idea that sort of will come. I can't remember if it's in this very first episode or if it comes in later episodes, was to call it a reboot.
Yes. Yeah, you do use it. That was in this episode.
So it's like, a modern reboot of an 80s show.
Does that mean at some point we could see an original episode of it?
Oh,
a flashback
that's a good idea.
Set in the 80s, different characters, but in the same thing, but set back then.
Yes. Well, because what I found was that it was hard for people to frame their minds around what sort of technological options they would have in the 80s.
Yes, that came up during my game too when I said it in the 90s, and we had a millennial on the thing who
doesn't know that
understand.
We didn't always have cell phones.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't just have all the world's knowledge at your fingertips in 1998.
Yeah, you had to find an encyclopedia if you really wanted to do that, or a copy of Encarta.
Encarta, and then you had to wait 20 minutes for it to load.
Yeah. So one of the things I really like about how you built this is that you have constructed this structure, like of your Murder Maven group, and that structure continues on, and the players can swap out. Like that's sort of one of the things we talked about when we were sort of coming up with this idea, is that not everyone's going to be able to commit to every episode.
Well, it is not the challenge of any gaming group.
Exactly.
Scheduling.
Right. Anybody who's done any role playing for more than a single session, and we all have single session games where best of intentions, but you played once and then never played again. Yeah. I still am, now that this sort of back in my life, I'm sort of now becoming haunted by my previous characters who are like,
I want to
remember,
play.
I only ever got to be in one thing, but you had goals and ideas for me. And it was like, oh yeah, I wonder if I could somehow find a way. But, and just because we're of an age where we have responsibilities and we have things that we're doing, we have life stuff. Even we can't commit to being on every single episode, even though we're trying. But the same thing, and we expect the same thing of our players, of the cool timers. Like they're not going to be there at every single episode. But I think that's what's brilliant about what you have built. Essentially, is that you have the structure that we can swap people in and out, and it's still the same stories, but it's going to be different every single time.
The same club,
right?
But it's different Mavens.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we also get to meet a variety of performers that way too. So you're not going to be hearing the same 4 characters every time. Right. You're going to get to meet a lot of different performers playing a lot of different roles. So even our first 2 outings, right? Yeah. We have Dorian playing 2 very different characters, and David Westlake is playing a couple different characters, and I'm playing different characters. So,
well, you're playing a lot of characters.
Yes, which is what I like to
do. That's why you're at the podium and we're on the seats.
So it's a lot of fun, and I think our hope is that we're gonna have a lot of variety, and so you, our wonderful listeners, you'll be able to count on the fun, but the surprises will also still be there. Yeah. In every episode.
So when the brilliance of that system that they built also is that there isn't a right answer.
Right.
We don't always tell the audience that.
Right.
Or listeners, if you're listening to a behind the scenes episode, you're going to get behind the scenes info. If you've never read the Murder Mavens of Brindlewood Bay role playing game, it is designed so that there is always a satisfactory ending, no matter what.
Yeah.
Which is a brilliant system that they have come up with.
Yeah, depending, of course, on the roll of the dice, which is really hard. Really hard to screw up, which doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Yes. Yeah, I think 4 was our lucky number.
Yes.
We kept rolling 4s.
Your answer, as long as it's well reasoned, will end up being the correct answer, unless you totally biff it on the roll.
Right. As long as you have enough of the clues sort of lined up.
Exactly.
To give yourself the plus.
To explain them in a way that fits your theory of the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you always have a plus, whatever that be, and then so that at the end, then you can lay it out, and the person goes, you caught me.
You got me, you meddling kids. But I will say that every time it has not turned out being the person I thought it. Okay, I was making it really obvious.
Let's talk about this one specifically. Your John Waters-esque, socialite is murdered. And we sort of wandered through the house and talked to different people, and then we came up with the idea that it was the young influencer and her boyfriend who had conspired through. I don't even know if we fully decided why. Was it her mother was in a picture with him, but was it that they had been in a relationship? Was she related? Was
it he her father?
Yeah, there was something. There's a little part that we sort of just smudged over a bit, and that's who we decided was the murderer. But as you were running it, you had a different idea. Who did you think?
I thought it was going to be the wife.
Okay.
I really thought that she was like the most obvious candidate to be sort of fed up with his falling success.
Oh, okay.
Like, what's the...
Yeah,
he was on the
decline, like he was. His star was on the decline.
There's an expression that we can't think of.
We'll find it.
And wanted to keep up with her elaborate lifestyle, and was possibly, I thought, had uncovered an affair in his past, which also could have explained the photo with the influencer's mom, but our cast, you guys, didn't even talk to her.
No,
she was like so quickly left to the side and forgotten.
I think she showed up twice, and like I say, she showed up when we were sort of wandering through the party. She came in. I think Molly was having a conversation with someone, and she came in, and that's sort of how we met her the first time. And then you sort of brought her back as sort of like, she's also here, like she's right there. And then not one person on of our little Murder Maven group bit on that and went after her and talked to her at all.
Yes, even though it's a locked room mystery, you still don't even the characters who the cool timers locked onto weren't necessarily the ones that I thought were going to be the most appealing.
Okay.
So that was a lesson that I learned. They all have to be appealing.
Or at least interesting.
Yes. I have to have a plan for all of them.
Yes.
And an accent I can maintain.
Or a slight impression, just so that we can stay in the same area, and we can differentiate between the two, which always is a challenge.
Exactly. Although I do think that, because that character was sort of a Jennifer Coolidge impersonation. Yeah, I think there's probably going to be a Jennifer Coolidge impersonation in every episode. So so listen for that.
Yeah, I have a couple of things in my wheelhouse as well. A couple of cards I can pull, but if we ever get in a situation where I'm running and we get beyond sort of 4 or 5 characters, then I'm gonna get, all of a sudden they're going to be like, oh, that guy also sounds like a bad Christopher Walken impression.
Yes, and then it's a convention. It's a convention of people who sound like Moira Rose. Yeah.
So I guess then. Besides the technical challenges that we went through, what did you sort of learn from this that you would then apply to the next game? The Murder Mavens are the next thing that you did, obviously, because you've run this game at home, putting it on stage, and for a podcast sort of changes it. This is why it's a alternate universe almost version of that. Like your game still can continue on, and this is a alternate reality one.
And the time limit, of trying to make it happen within 90 minutes. Of course, we're not putting out. We all love 4-hour role play game podcast.
That's right. Yeah, that takes you like 3 commutes in order to get through.
It takes a whole week to listen to. We're trying to keep ours to 90 minutes, so the whole mystery has to be wrapped up in that time, or at least half the mystery has to be wrapped up in that time. So what I learned, I think, from this first episode was that I need to be more organized in the way I present the characters to you. Because I think this time I really approached it as like, it'll be organic. Like, it's a party, so they'll mingle.
Sure, moving from place to place.
Yeah.
And, you
and
both reach for a canapé.
Hey, it's you.
Oh, it's you.
No, that doesn't work. It has to be a little bit more organized so that every Maven meets every character right at the beginning. So then we can go and it can flow from there. But if we have characters to introduce, we have to introduce them at the top.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. From a player perspective, you were the most organized people I've ever gamed with. Whereas, like, you had photos, you had maps, you had actual clues that you handed us that were labeled.
Yes.
You had cast the entire thing. I mean, like that's one of the things that if you come down to see the show, you actually can see like there are. Faces attached to the characters, which
and props.
Exactly, and props, and actually, even in sort of the test one, which we did not record, we were just trying to learn the space, the little half-hour one. You still had things you gave us, like we had crumpled up pieces of paper that you had made that had clues and stuff on them. So
that's part of the fun for me.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've played with people who just like show up and drop the source book on there and start. But you had binders, you had slideshow.
I love a binder. I love a binder. Yes, come down to see us, and you'll get the full experience. Yeah.
I'd say I had never been a binder person, but I have started using the binder too, inspired by you. So like when I did mine, I had it right there because as you're sort of up there and having in the game master chair, the storyteller seat. There's so much you have to keep running. There's so many loops you have open and stuff too. And like we were talking about before, of trying to keep everybody, giving everybody the spotlight. That I would completely forget what characters' names are.
Yes,
like the people that I created, I would have to flip.
What did this guy sound like? Yeah,
right. I've had to sort of create a cheat sheet for myself of like that, and then also the voice or character inspiration for it, so that I can go, oh right, he sounds like.
That's I find, and that's a performance thing too. Is like if you give them a little catchphrase, then every time you say the catchphrase, you can like click into that character. So I try and think of like it's sort of, I guess, an impression of who it will be and a little catchphrase so that you can like jump into that person, which I'm also still working on. So
well, sure.
Not to be perfect.
Not everybody can be Matt Mercer.
Right, of course.
So I've sort of watched some of those and just am amazed by how fast they can switch that stuff. So that is something that I'm learning as well.
We'll get there.
Exactly.
And you'll come with us, wonderful listener.
That's right. So anything else that you can think of from the Halloween hijinks that you wanted to, that we didn't?
No, it was, I think you'll find that the subsequent episodes hopefully have a little bit more flow, but of course, like, we also want to hear from you. So if you have thoughts, like, let us know.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So that we can have this grow into something that really works.
Right. Because like I say, the what we're doing, I've not seen anyone else do. So we're sort of, heading out into sort of uncharted territories too. Yes. Like even though there's a lot of actual play stuff out there, I have not found anything that's sort of doing what we're doing. So we're taking some wrong turns every once in a while.
Yeah.
But, that's as you're exploring, sometimes it turns out that river was just a little tributary, and you have to go back a little bit to move forward. But I'm very pleased with how it came out because as a player, it was super fun.
And I loved the magic that you added of like the little tippy tap taps and the influencer is doing her thing, and like all the added stuff like really makes it magical. So the experience that you got, listeners, is a lot of so much Kyle magic.
Well, yeah, that sort of brings some of my audio drama,
Yes,
stuff
which I
that I have
love.
done. I'm like, okay, well, I have that set of skills. Like, why not, put that little bit on, and to not have it overwhelm. Like, we're not trying to do a full on, audio drama with this. We still want it to be free, and so I'm as I'm on stage or even when I'm in the audience, I'm trying not to like mentally say, oh, I'm going to put a thing in there. I'm going to do like, this would be a good thing right there. Because I don't want that to influence when I'm performing. That like, then he pulls out a saxophone. Like, no, it's like, yeah. See, that is much better than me finding whatever open source saxophone.
Well,
sound.
you sort of get to perform a second time too, so you get to
Right.
perform in the moment, in the scene,
Yeah, and then
you
I get to enhance.
Perform a second time for the wonderful listener. So there's so many different experiences that you get to have, listener. You can be an audience person. You can be a listener. I guess that's two experiences you can have.
They could be a commenter.
Yes.
Or they could
Supporter.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they could be a celestial navigator. Perhaps
Yes.
might discover some stars. My favorite number of stars is 5. But you can, make up your own mind about that. But
5 or nothing. Yeah.
5 or nothing. And let that be the word that goes out with you as we bring this episode to a close. So stay subscribed. Next up, I believe, is Spooky Teen Squad. So you'll hear me umming and awing and uhing my way through my first game that I've run in a very, very long time.
That's something you learn about yourself in this process. Is
Yeah.
how often you
when you have to edit
stutter,
yourself, you go, in my head, like I'm Morgan Freeman. I'm like smooth, and then you get back and you go, well, it's just, yeah. So I try and take out as many of those as I can.
Good.
Yeah. But if you feel like you're missing out, come see it live. And you can hear all the ums and ahs that get eliminated.
You can have all the awkward pauses.
That's right.
That you can shake a stick at.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, all right. Stay subscribed. We'll be back with more Cool Time Dice Hour soon.